Imagine you go to a hospital to get a heart surgery and your bill is 8 lakh rupees. You go to your health insurance company and they deny the claim. What will you do then? We recently came across a similar case and we were able to reverse the decision. Here I have with me Shreyhit, who was personally involved in getting this claim settled. Over to you, Shreyhit. So tell us what exactly happened.
So, Kavya, this is perhaps one of the most interesting cases that we've had so far at Ditto. Simply because it was not complicated and yet the insurer had created some complications of their own. And we had to sort it in a very time-bound manner because the heart surgery could not wait. So, let me give you a case brief, right? So, this customer came to us in August 2023 and they wanted to port from Future Generali Health Insurance Company to a different provider, right? And they were asking us for suggestions. Now, like always, our advisor sat them down, explained the pros and cons, and especially considering that this gentleman was a senior citizen, right? So he was 65 years old. We had to be very careful in the recommendations that we make. Correct. Because at that age, it's likely that you will have to file a claim. And if the claim doesn't go through, especially after you switched providers, that can be problematic. So we had sort of explained to the customer exactly what options are there in front of him and whether he should port or not. We had also given him the pros and cons. Eventually, they told us they wanted to switch to a different provider and we said, okay. And so the switch happened in August 2023. And after that, for 3 months, nothing happened, right? August, September, October, November, no issues. In December, the customer filed for a claim saying that one of their arteries is completely blocked, right? So there was a 90% block in, I think, in one of their arteries and they had to get a bypass surgery done. And bypass is usually a very complicated surgery and the bill was going to be about 8 lakhs. And we were intimated about this. So when the customer came to us, we told them the usual procedure. We told them, listen, you can file for a claim by going to the hospital, giving them your insurance ID card and telling them that you want to make a claim. And because this is a planned procedure, because he knows exactly that the procedure was supposed to happen on December 12, 2023 and they intimated us on December 8th. So on December 9th, we asked them to go to the hospital, provide their insurance ID card and also give them their policy number so that the hospital can then intimate the insurance company that a claim was going to be made.
This is done in network hospitals also.
Correct. This was done in a network hospital so that cashless claims can be approved, right? So that they don't have to worry about paying the bill first and then waiting for reimbursement. So everything went smoothly. The insurance company even acknowledged the claim very quickly, right? On the same day, within about an hour, they said, we've acknowledged the claim. But because this is a high value claim, we will have to do an in-person investigation. Now, usually what happens is people are under the assumption that just because they go to a network hospital, their cashless claim will be immediately approved. But usually that doesn't happen, especially with high value claims. Since this was for 8 lakhs the amount and they had only switched to the new provider 3 months ago. So there's some suspicion saying, oh, maybe this person is trying to game the system. Maybe they're trying to get a fraudulent claim approved. So they wanted to do an investigation.
So do they not check all this before they port the plan?
So they usually have medical checks, etc. But at that age, you also have to remember that a lot hinges on the customer's declaration. So some customers, what they will do is maybe they'll forget a few things or maybe they'll deliberately hide because once you're of an advanced age, you may have a couple of conditions and you may be worried that if I disclose this, I may not be able to switch to a different provider or I may not even get an insurance policy. So you may have some incentive to lie. And it's fair on the insurance company also that they want to do an investigation. Now, we immediately told the insurance company that if you want to do an investigation, it's fine, but please wrap it up before the end of this day. And the surgery was scheduled for 12th December, which was a Tuesday, and 9th December was a Saturday. And Sunday, they're not working. So Monday, we didn't want to wait and we wanted to conclude it on the Saturday only. So they said, okay, fine, we will do the in-person investigation. And they did the investigation and we were hoping that the cashless claim will be approved.
Right.
But then they denied the claim. They said that we are not going to pay the claim on a cashless basis. You can apply for reimbursement. Now, here's the problem. This gentleman, this customer was 69 years old.
Right.
And being 69 years old, he was really desperate at that point in time. He did not have 8 lakhs to pay. So he told us this. He said, listen, I don't have the money to pay. I can't wait for reimbursement. And immediately we had to figure something out. But remember, the insurance company will have their own timelines. They will want to do things on their own sort of pace. And they will want to do their investigation as thoroughly as possible. Because once they approve the claim, they can't go back. So once they say I'm going to pay 8 lakhs, they can't then say, oh, we found some discrepancy in the reports and we are not going to be able to pay the claim.
Okay.
So they said, no, we want to do our investigation. So now it was on us to prove the customer was not lying. So here's what happened. The first thing that we did is we wanted to see how the customer actually switched the providers, right? As in, what was his status before this? What we found out that he had a policy from Future Generali for 4 years before he actually switched to the provider. So this gentleman was insured since the age of 65 and he was 69. And so he had a good history of having a medical insurance. It wasn't like he bought a health insurance policy just because he wanted a surgery done or a procedure done. It was unlikely that he was lying.
But even his old policy was bought much late. He was 65 when he purchased
that
plan.
But even though he was 65, he had 4 years of history and the fact that he had never made a claim during those 4 years.
Okay.
See, this proves that this gentleman was not trying to con anybody.
Right.
If he was trying to con it, he would have made at least a few claims. That history would have been evident in his old insurance policy, but there was no such history. He had paid his premiums diligently for 4 years without making a single claim. What that shows us is some degree of honesty, because if I have a medical condition, it's likely that I would have made a claim. And if I was hiding that medical condition, it would have been evident. And for us, it was obviously not evident since he had the policy for 4 years and he had made 0 claims. The second thing that we realized was this gentleman had actually reached out to our claims team on November 2023 as well, just 2 months after buying the policy, saying that he had shortness of breath, that he had a slight pain in his chest, and that he wanted to go to the doctor to get this checked.
Right.
And he did go to the doctor. The doctor, when he went there, did all the blood tests. First, they did a lipid profile. They wanted to check the cholesterol levels.
Right.
Completely normal. Then they did an ECG. ECG was completely normal. Then they did an echocardiogram. That was also relatively normal. There were a few aberrations.
Right.
And the doctor, in the provisional diagnosis, in the first report, stated that this could probably be just gas. In fact, that was his diagnosis and they sent him back. They said, if the pain persists because of his age, especially 69, right, maybe you can come back. And they said it could be probably related to muscle issues. It can't be heart-related problems. Maybe it's not a heart attack, And so they sent him back. And the gentleman came back after 2 days saying that I still have shortness of breath and I still have pain in my shoulders. All the classic symptoms of usually heart-related problems, complications. And that's when the doctor insisted that he get a angiogram. Now, angiogram is the gold standard for figuring out if there is anything wrong in your heart. If the angiogram says that, oh, there is a block, there is a block. There is nothing else, right? And during the angiogram, they found out that there was a 90% block. Now, this may seem not so relevant for somebody who's not used to insurance, but for us, this was again more proof that the customer was not lying at all.
Right.
The customer had no pre-existing condition, right? In fact, if a customer is going to a doctor and then the doctor writes that there is nothing, you go back home, it's clear that even the doctor is unsure that if he has anything. Now, how can the customer be sure that he has something? And there's no point of lying only now. And now we looked at the comments made by the insurer when they rejected the claim. In the comments, they had said there were discrepancies in the reports. So we made an entire dossier of all his health records, of his previous insurance record, of having made no claims, of the doctor's report. And he had even asked us if the claim would be approved for the angiogram because it would cost him around 20-25,000. Unfortunately, insurance companies don't pay for diagnostic expenses, right? So they only pay if the hospitalization follows the diagnostic exams. And so this happened. He was eventually hospitalized and the surgery was to be performed. And so we put all of these records. And we got on a call on 9th with the insurance company and our claims team pushed. We told them, look, there's obviously no scope at all that there could be any misleading, initiative from the customer. There is nothing, right? And considering this fact, you can't now deny a claim. You tell me clearly, exactly, in written documentation, what is the discrepancy? This is the cleanest record that you can have. The doctor is also not sure if the customer, it's a clean cholesterol report. If the lipid, for instance, if the cholesterol reports were completely abnormal, maybe the insurance company could now claim and say, oh, look, it could be that you probably knew about this in the past. I mean, it's unlikely that your cholesterol levels are so off the charts just immediately like that. Maybe you knew of, maybe you were hiding it. Maybe they can make a claim. But in this case, even that was normal. So we were like, no, we are going to actually insist that you write in written documentation what is the discrepancy.
Right.
They said, okay, then we will have another in-depth examination. Give us 2 to 3 working days. Now I'll tell you why they said 2 to 3 working days. 2 to 3 working days would have meant that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
right.
then immediately it goes for reimbursement. There is no
Correct.
provision for cashless treatment, right? Because the surgery is scheduled on 12 and the customer is pleading us. He's like, look, I am not going to be able to pay for this. You get it done. And we said, we will get it done. So on Monday, we then once again got on call with the insurance. So this time even I joined, right? We had our team join in as well. And we pushed for the insurance company demanding an explanation. And at the end of this discussion, they eventually conceded that they had nothing to actually dispute. They said that it was a clerical error from somebody in the junior level. And they said that they will eventually, deal with the claim, and the claim was approved on the morning of 12th. And I think the claim amount, the amount for the surgery was about 8,06,000 and the claim was approved for around 7,95,000. So by and large, the claim was approved and eventually we figured out how to get the remaining amount as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was the case, and I think that there's a lot of lessons that people can learn from this experience alone.
So what the way you mentioned ki they were okay maybe reimbursing the claim later.
Yes.
So do you think the intention was to maybe create a ruckus later?
I think that's a very good question. I think what insurance companies generally do is, see, when they create these policies, they'll tell you 10 lakh a no claim bonus, 20 lakh a restoration, all of these gimmicks, right? And I call them gimmicks not because they're not good features to have, but it's because insurance companies always have a defense. And their defense is this: if they first deny a claim, citing that they have to do an investigation, which, by the way, they can do in most cases, right? Even IRDAI, the regulator, allows them to do it because, like I said, once they approve the claim, they can't take it back. So they have to be very thorough in their investigation. But this is also a good smoke screen for them because they can first deny the claim and they can wait to see how you respond.
Right.
Now, in most cases, what happens is, I mean, this case was for 8 lakhs and the gentleman had no means to pay. But if it's a lower value claim, most people will think, "Theek hai yaar, who will go through the
why
problem?"
bother?
Exactly. Yeah. And then they can do their investigation at their own pace. They can wait. They can see how you respond, whether you'll submit all the documentation. Because at any point, if you fail to provide documentation support to the insurance company, they can deny the claim by citing that you were unable to actually procure the documentation.
Okay.
So this is a delaying tactic, yes, one, right? This could be an authentic tactic as well to make sure that they're protected, right? Their liability is limited. But there's also the other side of the coin, which is that insurance companies routinely use this to make sure they first get you to pay. And once you've paid, there's at least legitimacy that the procedure has been performed.
Correct.
Right? I mean, it's very hard for them to deny that nothing has happened, right? This whole thing was a sham. And then they can do their investigation, they can make you wait, and they can see how you respond, right? So, true. I think some insurance companies are notorious for doing this. And yeah, in this case, at least, luckily it didn't go to that. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so every happy ending has some lessons.
Yeah.
So what do you think we can learn from this particular case?
I think anybody who's watching this or who's actually going to the hospital should probably keep in mind a few things. The first thing that they have to remember is that generally, right, if you bought a policy today and if you're making a claim, say 15 days later or 35 days later, there's a good chance that the insurance company will do a thorough evaluation, right? So if you have any medical records, right, that could support your claim, right, I think you should be very open in those declarations. Like, for instance, this gentleman clearly immediately told us that he had a policy for 4 years. I mean, it was there in our records as well, and we could see that he had made 0 claims. He had also intimated us when he went to the doctor originally, even before he had known that there was a block. He told us, this is what's happening to me, I'm going through this. So it kept us in the loop. So as an agent, we could build a case for him. He didn't have to worry. His family didn't have to worry. All he had to do was call us and tell us, listen, I can't do this. you do it for me, right? So I think the first thing that customers should generally be aware of when they're dealing with a claim is to have documentation support. If you've had medical issues in the past, please preserve those records, because it can then be used to make a claim or support your claim. Right? In this case, obviously, he had all the documentation. He had never been diagnosed with anything before. He had gone to the doctor. The doctor had clearly stated that there was no history of anything. The patient had no illnesses, no pre-existing condition. So it was easy for us to build the case. And the second most important thing is, this is one of the reasons why we've generally been advocates of people not buying insurance directly.
Right.
Because when you're buying insurance directly, what tends to happen is that you have to deal with the insurer yourself. There's nobody to fight for you. And what tends to happen is, somebody like Ditto, for instance, right? We could pressure the insurance company and we could get those meetings and we could actually pitch our case because we have leverage.
Right.
We work with the insurance company, right? We make sure that when people come to us, we showcase their policies. So they know for a fact that if the claim experience is bad, if they don't respond to us, if they're not honest in their communication with us, immediately next day, right, I'm going to make sure that your policy will not be showcased at Ditto. And we've done this in the past with other insurers, right? We've not partnered with some insurance companies because we did a pilot run with them and we realized that this is not something that works. Obviously, we'll continue supporting the earlier customers, but we know for a fact that we are not going to deal with the insurance company alone, and the insurance company is also aware. So generally, even if it's not Ditto, I think customers, there's a legitimate case for them to go to an agent. It could be your family, close family members you really trust. Maybe they won't have the leverage, the same way we do, but it's still better than going to the insurer directly, right?
Right.
So if you have some agent, an intermediary in between, it becomes a lot easier. And you want an agent at the time of the claim, not necessarily for reimbursement, because then you may not even have the money to shell out, right? So I think that's the second lesson. And the final lesson is, you want to make sure that you can present your case effectively as well. And the way you do that is obviously, one, by preserving records, but also two, by making sure that when you go to the doctor, you ask them to list all of these things very clearly, right? If you have no pre-existing medical condition, you can prompt the doctor to actually mention it in the original, report, so that then there's no confusion. Most doctors do it themselves, right? Now they know how they, when they're working with insurance companies, they know for a fact that these are the things that are generally expected. But you can also tell them, look, I have had no condition. It would help me if you could probably mention this upfront, right? And if there are abbreviations, sometimes doctors abbreviate things.
Correct.
And there may be confusion because now the insurance company can deny, saying that, oh, this is what we thought. So make sure that it's clear, in crystal clear language, right? Everything is as clear as possible, so that then we can make a case in the first place. So yeah, I think these are some of the lessons that people should keep in mind. And yeah, if you're ever in a position and you're a customer with Ditto, I urge them to keep us in the loop, because we can definitely help you guys in the event that something goes wrong, right? We can build a case for you. So yeah, those are some of the lessons that I would personally feel like could be takeaways for people watching this episode.
Thank you for sharing that story. I know for a fact that a lot of us who are looking for health insurance and have been reading so many cases of rejections are kind of skeptical. So this story probably helped us understand the world a little better and feel more protected. So thank you for this story. If you're also looking for a health insurance plan, talk to our advisors at Ditto Insurance. We will never spam you. We will never push you to buy. So you can reach out to us when you're ready. And if you ever get stuck in your claims, as you got to know, we will help you there as well. So talk to us, book a call with us at the link in description. Till then, like, share and subscribe. Happy insurance hunting.